Transportation Improvement Fund, public hearing. And I'll start off by reading the article for that. That's Article 12. To see if the town will vote to collect an additional vehicle registration fee of $5 for the purpose of supporting a municipal transportation improvement fund, which shall be a capital reserve fund established for this purpose and governed by the provisions of RSA 35. Of the amount collected, 50 cents of each fee paid shall be retained by the town for administrative costs. The remaining amount shall be deposited into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund established to allow a community to fund wholly or in part improvements in the local and regional transportation system, including roads, bridges, bicycles, and pedestrian facilities, parking and intermodal facilities, electric vehicle charging stations, and public transportation. The funds may be used for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and capital costs of public transportation only. The funds may be used as matching funds for state or federal funds allocated for local, regional transportation improvements. Such funds shall not be used to offset any other non-transportation appropriation made by the municipality. The additional fee shall be collected from all vehicles, both passenger and commercial, with the exception of all-terrain vehicles. Vehicles as defined in RSA 215A1B, and antique motor vehicles or motorcycles as defined in RSA 259.4. Estimated tax impact is negative, set 0.5 cents per thousand, and the selectmen have not voted on this yet, and it's been recommended by the budget committee 6-0.
Okay, this hearing by statute has to run 30 minutes. And if there are specific questions or comments on the hearing, I'll take them now. If not, we will proceed to the rest of the warrant articles. Are there any questions regarding the hearing at this point? Mr. Bolt.
Why is there a tax impact?
Pardon?
Why is there a tax impact if it's going to be a fee coming from the town clerk?
So it's a negative tax impact. The fund, based on current registrations, is estimated to produce revenue of $3,500 that would go to offset annually, that would offset the town clerk's office for administering the program. And the estimate for the amount of revenue that would be put into the fund annually would be about $37,000 in revenue annually. So over a period of 5 years, we're around $175,000. We were looking at, there's another warrant article that this is kind of tied to. We were looking at offsetting the purchase of a piece of equipment for the highway department out of these funds, so that equipment would have zero impact. And the fund would also accumulate revenue over a period of time.
You have a question, Bruce?
Yep. Why would you consider doing this at all? Your cost, if you just added on to your taxes out of the thing on it for that amount, would be paid for by anybody that has anything from the power companies to the land to Home Depot to Walmart. All these other ones would be paying their fair share on the basis of what it is, rather than trying to have this go back to the people within the community. I don't believe that this is a good, solid way of increasing it and having a fair basis. 1 in every 10 houses in the state of New Hampshire in terms is a second home. And the second home people won't have to pay anything on it from the point of the way you're doing it. It only comes back to force people that are paying to live here that you're trying to add a fee onto it as far as that goes. And I believe that if the total amount of money that you're talking about raising, impact-wise, out of the thing on it for approximately the $30,000 that might be raised out of the thing on it, impact-wise, probably would affect And I guess I'd ask you people, how will it affect it if it was just added to the tax rate?
37,000.
Plus what you're gonna pay Judy White or whatever. What? I mean, the town clerk.
It would be about 5 cents per thousand.
So about 5 cents per
Right,
thousand
if you
annually.
needed it, it's only if you needed it, when you would add it on, put it on to your tax rolls on the thing on it, and then it would be paid for by all the property owners within the community of the thing on it, including the power companies, the landowners, everything on it is a fair way of doing it. It's just not right that you try to add something on and have it get paid for by the people in your community. It's a waste of this kind of money. And the majority of your people who live in the town of Littleton are elderly people. That's, believe it or not, there's more elderly people in the town than there is young people.
One of the impacts is it's not just property taxpayers that's affected. We have many people that rent, we have many people that come in from out of town and register their vehicles. So a lot of those individuals will be paying this $5 right along with everyone else, and it can help toward paying a bill of some kind rather than having just the property taxpayers paying for an item.
It's difficult because if the town clerk in turn allows people to come in from Europe and register a car in this community, they can go on welfare. So consequently, you turn around when you're running a town, you in turn make sure that the people are residents of your community. You don't turn around and register your cars out of it to come here and register a vehicle. Because if you do allow something to register it, they can go on to and be on the rolls for being able to collect welfare. And that's known by your town clerk's outfit. So I don't think that you're right on that part of it. Consequently, that's what they do. But I don't believe you've got very many on there that would do it. But this is not a good fiscally sound thing on behalf of your community to do this.
Thank you for your input. Ron, was your question answered?
I think I've got a follow-up question. What are we trying to accomplish here? I mean, most of the things that are...
Public hearing is for public input.
No, I mean, what are we trying to achieve by this fee? I mean, most of the things that are mentioned are here are things that the highway department already does. I mean, I was intrigued by the part here about matching funds from the state or whatnot. Is that what's in play here? Is there a lot of money that we could possibly attack?
So, for example, if, with the average of about $37,000 a year over a period of 5 years, if the fund was just allowed to accumulate, you could end up with around $200,000. Often we'll be in a grant application process or looking at a grant like the Transportation Alternative Program, which we were recently awarded, requires a 20% match. So like that 200 could become $1 million worth of public infrastructure without having to go back and put it on the tax bills. Or some of the projects that will have federal dollars in them, and they won't allow other grant monies to be matched to them. So yeah, you're on point with being able to have some funds set aside. One of the examples of things that we're working on right now and starting to get estimates on is some parking solutions. We're looking at free parking solutions, but then there's also in the long-term parking structures and those sorts of things. So they're very expensive, and being able to have somewhere to store some money without impacting the tax rate is seen as a benefit.
You already have that. When you're talking about your parking meter fund, that's what that's for, as far as parking is concerned.
That's correct. With the we also have the parking meter fund, and those funds do build up, I think, pretty slowly.
But you're double dipping on all these things out there by doing this.
So this is just enabling the town. It's an enabling piece of legislation out of the state that allows towns to do this, and if the voters decide to do it and enable the town to do it, then we'll collect about $37,000 a year towards transportation projects. So it's up to the voter.
So Is there any other input on the hearing? Joe?
I'd like to comment that I think Karen and Andrew thought outside the box. You mentioned that at the budget committee meeting. You guys thought outside the box and found a way to bring some revenues in that isn't a direct impact on the property taxpayers and give us a little more money to fund various transportation-related projects. And I think it's a good theory, good idea, and I thank you and commend you for that.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else? Okay, this, as I said, will run for the 30 minutes until 5:30, but anytime anybody can interrupt me to comment on this hearing, but I'm going to start through the warrant articles. If I see somebody else come in, I'll appraise them of their rights on the bond hearing. The first of the warrant articles is the election of officers. To choose necessary officers, including one selectman for a 3-year term, one supervisor of the checklist for a 6-year term, one supervisor of the checklist for a 2-year term, one trustee of the trust funds for a 3-year term, one park commissioner for a 3-year term, and 3 library trustees for 3-year terms. Now, the purpose of this meeting is to clarify the warrant articles. Got a question? Now's the time to ask it. It's not really a forum for debate, it's informational. Debate comes at deliberative session. I'm going to move on to Article 2, Mill Street Sewer Bond. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $340,000 for the purpose of repair and replacement of sewer lines within the existing wastewater collection system and any other costs related thereto, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $340,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33. And to authorize the selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for said project. The amount of such bonds or notes to be reduced by any grant funding received for the project, and to further authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. This requires a 3/5 ballot vote, non-lapsing until 2019. No tax impact in 2018. Brian?
Could someone explain where the $500,000 came from, the number, and then also how is the project going to be bid, or is it going to be bid? Can somebody just explain the project? I think that would be helpful. Is that the right time to ask that?
We do have another public hearing coming up on the bond, which will start at 5:30.
Okay, I'll wait on
And
that.
then we'll go over it.
Just a second. First of all, I'm told that I need to open the meetings.
It must be 5:30.
It's not 5:30.
Open a bond.
The bond hearing started at 5:30, it runs to 6. I was off on that. So currently I need to open this section of the meeting. So open.
Well done.
Thank you. Now I'm back to Article 2, and Ryan, was your question answered?
No. But, I mean, if there's going to be another presentation, I don't want to.
We can do that now.
If there's going to be a detailed presentation on the Foster Hill project, then let's wait for that.
Are you doing a presentation on the sewer? Okay.
We're going to do Mill Street Bond now?
Pardon?
Are we doing Mill Street Bond?
We're doing Mill Street.
No, okay, great.
Okay, so Mill Street, as you're probably all aware, is located behind the Opera
Who are you?
Main Street where Schillings is, sorry.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Andrea Day from Dufresne Group, and I've been working with the town on some wastewater projects in the past couple of years. So Mill Street was identified by both the town and through inspections that we completed as having some undersized and poor condition manholes that are built out of brick and block, which allow infiltration water to come into the sewer system. We also found some pipe changes that, pipe size changes that could cause backups, and catch basin connections were found by the Public Works Department to the sewer. And those of you who were here last year when I talked about sub-area 5, this is going to sound somewhat familiar, but infiltration and inflow is a big problem in wastewater collection systems. Infiltration being water that comes in, groundwater that comes into the sewer system and eventually ends up at the wastewater treatment plant. Inflow would be catch basins or roof drains that are connected, or just a leaky manhole cover that may allow stormwater to run into the system. So as you all witnessed lately, we had a little bit of flooding in northern New England. This happens, well, it's happened significantly multiple times in recent years, and I spoke with the operator at the plant, and he said it's one of the largest hurdles that they have in treating wastewater is when there's a rain event, they get a huge surge at the plant, and they're doing all they can to keep the water quality that's leaving the plant within their requirements so that it's not harming our surface waters. And so I was speaking with Joe earlier, and he said that the plant with the recent rain was at 2 million gallons a day for the last 2 days. And the plant is really designed and permitted for 1.5 million gallons on average. And so they're really, doing everything they can to keep up, and anything that can be done to reduce the amount of infiltration and inflow makes it easier to treat the water and will delay needed improvements at the plant that are caused by increased flow. So here's a couple of pictures of the manholes on Mill Street. As you can see, that one is entirely brick and quite old, and so it will allow groundwater to enter into the sewer collection system. The other one is a little bit more difficult, but is also brick and block. So we're proposing to replace these manholes with concrete manholes and replace the sewers to prevent those backups and flow issues, and disconnect any catch basins that are connected to really just collect wastewater so that the plant doesn't have to treat stormwater and groundwater. It doesn't cost any less to treat a gallon of stormwater that has come into the system than it does a gallon of wastewater that came from your house. So the timeline, we're currently under design for this project. We were able to work with the state to allow for this project, if the bond is passed, to be part of the Sub-Area 5 project, which would go to construction this construction season. There's a project that's planned for Mill Street that is a sidewalk project, and it's in the best interest to address these wastewater collection system issues before you do the infrastructure on the surface. You don't want to have to dig up a brand new sidewalk to replace this or fix a sewer main that we have the opportunity to fix here. So this is difficult to see, but the total project cost estimate. Last year, a bond was passed for $2 million to add on the Mill Street improvements, brings the total project cost to $2.34 million. And there are there are contingencies built into that, engineering fees, legal fees, so that would be the total project cost. Okay. Do you want to, anything else? Any questions?
My question is, how many other studies are already in our office pertaining to the drainage of the whole town? Not just this area, but the whole town. This is not the first time that this has come up. This is not the first time that they hired drainage people to come in and do it. And it's been studied before, and I don't know where the studies are, but I would like to see that somebody looks at them and analyze them rather than just going out and hiring somebody else to come in.
So there was a study, an infiltration and inflow study completed in 2012 that broke the town up into sub-areas and prioritized those sub-areas based on the amount of estimated infiltration and inflow. Sub-area 5 was the worst offender with the amount of infiltration and inflow that was measured based on per lineal foot inch of pipe is how they measure it. So sub-area 5 is already underway to be addressed, and we had the opportunity to add this project into sub-area 5, and the timing with the sidewalk project made sense to the town, I believe. And so that document that was previously prepared is being used to help prioritize projects that are actually going to further along.
Yeah. And so, basically, Bruce, what's happened is we're moving with this from study to actually doing the work. So we're actually accomplishing what those studies have looked at.
How about the brook that goes down through there?
You might be referring to Hidden Brook,
Yes.
further down. That's part of a different project.
Is that part of the same thing?
This is a separate project from that one.
The other one was, when Saranac Love was formed, there was a complete drainage system that had a brick building down there that went drainage, went all the way from this Saranac plant, all the way down to the sewer plant. Was that sewer?
That's part of, if it's part of a project, that's part of a separate project. So this one is focusing on Mill Street and then also the sub-area 5, which is Pine and Cross and Union and Chiswick,
My
and
question
a few other
is,
streets.
was this taken into consideration, because that was all paid for when the town initially put the sewer plant in.
Again, I think that if that was part of any study, it would be in the River District project that we're doing this year and not part of this one.
You know,
I don't. That would have to be a question for, we have a different set of engineers on that project. Joe?
So you're talking about the pump station, but Sarah?
there was a building put, and when they in turn initially, Saranac Glove came here, to get gloves and to tannery, it was a tannery down there. And the tannery in turn was very, very expensive to be able to process the sewage out of the thing. So they had a separate building down there, which is a brick building, it's still there.
It was back there 2 Saturdays ago, I was in there pretty good.
That's right, and
Yeah, I know.
that went directly from there to the sewer plant.
Yep.
On the thing on it, and that's part of it, and it should be part of what you're talking about in here, because it could make it more or cost-wise, or it could be more expensive out of it too. It was, I don't think it was ever used, but it was built. About the same time, Saranac Glove went out, but it's still there. So it was the whole thing.
So it's part of the River District job, first of all, but to speak to this point, there's a pump station there that is now Cloutier's, from part of Cloutier's property there. There's some talk as to whether it's actually Littleton's or Cloutier's shared, or it's ours, or it's theirs. We believe it to be theirs, but I was there just 2 weeks ago assisting with the backup there, and it's on private property, and the sewer treatment plant, utility partners, and my oldest guys say it's not theirs. But we do, it does discharge sewer to our plant from Saranac Glove, it does, yes. But it's River District, it's not.
Right, yeah, it's not part of this project.
Bruce is correct, that brick building was built for deer filter, so that you didn't clog the system and you caught the deer. And again, the bond was passed in '63, Saranac closed in '66, so I think Bruce is probably right. If it was ever used, it was just a short period of time. There's no access to the property for the town. I don't know how long ago, it must have been 20 years ago. I believe the town sold it to Al Bolson for $5,000, and then he currently conveyed it to Ray Cloutier when he did that. So I don't think it's connected to the sewer system anymore, because it was, once it was no longer a tannery, they didn't need a need, there wasn't a need for that building for that particular purpose.
it's connected. I was in it 2 weeks ago with sewage all around, but it's okay.
It's still connected, I ran all the way to the sewer plant.
But it's different now. It's not part of the same job.
We'll have to check that industrial discharge permit.
I missed the point about the offsetting funds. Where are those funds coming from? And are they guaranteed?
Do you want to speak to that?
Sure, so funding is already in place for this work. There is funding available under the loan that was acquired through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to fund Sub-Area 5. The estimates for Sub-Area 5 came in under that total loan amount, so there was room to add this project into that loan. So funding's already available, and there's 12.5% principal forgiveness on that money.
So when the article says there's no tax impact in 2018, there's no tax impact beyond that either, is
There is, yeah.
Well, technically, so there's no tax impact, but there is a sewer fund impact, because this bond will be paid for out of the sewer fund.
it? Which means the sewer bills will increase. That's how you can pay that.
Well, that depends, depends on how many new sewer users and the discharge amounts that they have. For example, there's new sewer connections from Schillings or new sewer connections potentially from, say, the expansion at Rotobeck or Tender. And all of those, the more sewer users you have on, the more fees that they pay, so.
It's one of those, this could happen, or this could happen, or this could happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables. And there won't be anything in 2018. But again, this also will save users money in that you're not getting all the infiltration into the sewer system. What happens right now is we have to treat, every gallon of water that's going in there. And if we're treating 500,000 gallons more than we should be, then there's a real savings there.
I totally support this, and time is wise and fast. If either 4 or 5 years ago, there was continually flooding in high rain in that particular area, we had spent $50,000 for emergency repairs, and what happened was the building across the street that my parents owned a long, long time ago, those roof drains were connected to the sewer, and when those came down through, they flooded. God knows what's down there. And $340,000, if we're able to reallocate the funds to take care of that area, it's some of the oldest infrastructure in town. So I commend you. I think this is a good project and money well spent from the sewer fund, because it addresses both short-term sewer needs and long-term needs with reduction in infiltration.
So can we ask about the sewer funds and what they are now and how much money you got in there? And how much is committed for?
This is an unaudited estimated amount for the end of 2017. We have in the special purpose connection fund, $69,000. We have in the special purpose replacement fund, $355,000. We have reserve fund balance for the sewer system, $300,747.
How much of that is already spoken about?
At this time, nothing.
So any part of the new River District project hasn't going to increase the cost of sewer users at all?
It will increase the cost to the sewer users by the sewer portion of that. But it will be factored into the budget as part of that budget. There is some bond payments that have been factored into the sewer budget when we get into the sewer budget.
They put in 9% of the total amount per the amount of bill that's billed on. So if your bill goes up, you're still adding 9% on the basis of the total amount.
Correct.
So impact-wise, this would still affect the sewer users in the town of Littleton in 2019.
Yes.
Quite expensive. If you're looking at,
I'm estimating about 16,000 for this project alone,
how many years?
for 20 years.
Is there any regulation on the basis of time that said you can go 20 years?
It's part of the Clearwater, I can't remember the exact wording for the revolving loan fund we're getting through the state. It's 2% interest. We get 12% or 12.5% off the principal once the project is complete. So there's going to be a percentage knocked off the total amount of the whole project once the project's complete.
So are we still paying for Grove Street?
I would have to look at my bond list to see if we still are, and I believe we are.
So what other bonds have you got at the present time, and how long is the out?
I'll have to look at that. I can print you off something and get it to you if you'd like.
Well, I'd like to, before you go and handle this thing on it, it should be answered to the public.
I'm hoping I have it with me.
Okay, the first bond hearing is over. The second one, the one we're in now, started at 1:15. Do we have any more input on the second hearing, which was the Mill Street sewer bond? Seeing none, it's now 6:01. I will start the third hearing, which is the Foster Hill Road repairs. And I'll read that. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500,000 for the purpose of repair, replacement of paving on Foster Hill Road, and any other costs related thereto, to bring the road up to town standards, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $500,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, with the amount of such bonds or notes to be reduced by any grant funding received for the project, and to further authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative hereto. This also requires a 3/5 ballot vote, non-lapsing until 2019, no tax impact in 2018. Question?
When is the tax impact?
Pardon?
When is the tax impact?
Can't hear you.
When is the tax impact?
2019.
2019, we would start in 2019 if there is none in 2018. Right.
I had my question about presentation as to going out to bid, how it's going to be done, with 500,000, is somebody going to tell us how it's going to be done?
Joe?
We identified this road as one of the worst roads, out-of-town roads there is, and George McNamara before me and myself, we both we'd like to do one out-of-town road and 2 in-town roads each year if we could. And so this one was the top of his list and my list. We did some performed test bits a year and a half ago, or at least a year ago, to determine what the base was like, and then from there build a scope of work that we could possibly put out to bid. We would add grind the road, add gravel. We'd be able to add as much gravel as we like, because there are enough driveways out there where you're going to change driveway interest too drastically, but we would increase the road bed thickness considerably, and then 3 inches of pavement. $500,000 is a conservative number. That's a number based on public works, just perform the work. Number will probably be north of that. We have to subcontract the majority of the lion's share of the work out. I think we would have to. $500,000 will get us from where the interstate went through and cleaned up the beginning of Foster Hill Road. We wouldn't have to do that. That's in pretty good shape. We'll get a major portion of this road brought up to good standard. Just so you know, we have a hard time plowing it, and our street sweeper actually sucks up some of the road in the spring, and it sucks up the sand. It's in tough shape, and it does have some infrastructure on it. There's a major substation out there, and it's a well-traveled back road that identified as being important.
Was your question answered, Brian?
Yes, but can I comment?
Certainly.
Okay. I saw we were expending this amount of money, I realized that we would not be spending any money this year for any road improvements within the budget or the warrant articles. Is that correct?
No.
Just,
There are no warrant articles that have for any roads, am I correct?
So in sub 5, that's gonna happen this spring. You're gonna have Chiswick Street, Pine Street, those roads, curb to curb repaved, most of them, with a couple of them trash patches, but most of those are gonna be curb to curb repaved, as well as Mill Street and Saranac, and Hoosick Street and Saranac Street. So there's considerable work in town, so we picked one out of town.
Well, what concerns me is, I went back and I went to the library and I looked at the amount of money that we've been spending on roads, both in town and out of town, since 2012. In 2012, we spent $285 to Bishop, portion of school, Maple and Cottage. 2015, we did $259. And then in 2014, 15, and 16, we allocated $430,000 for High, Carlton, Archers Lake, Brook Road in 14. 15, we did $245 for Church, High, Grove, and Night Ave. 2016, we did $625 for Hill, Sears, School, and then there was $150,000, I guess, came out of the sewer fund to offset some of that cost. Last year, those numbers dropped down to $150 for Mount Eustis. I asked Karen how much money we're spending that we asked the taxpayers for, which was $6.1 million was what was asked for. Now, historically, we've spent about 7-8% of our operating budget on town road improvements. With us not spending any taxpayer dollars on neighborhood improvements, and I think the selectmen have done a good job during Milt's 6 years, along with working with the other ones, as far as meeting a lot of different neighborhoods. What concerns me is that we've taken the money out of the paving as part of the budget, say it's 8%, but we're spending it elsewhere. Now, we're not going to get away from not having to do road improvements, and it's been a bone of contention within the community that every time a piece of equipment or a personnel wants to be added, we cut the paving budget. And I would urge the selectmen to go back and incorporate, and I'll let you pick the neighborhoods, I think you've done a good job, funds in your operating budget to continue that, because if you eliminate any taxpayer dollars for your roads and your streets, sooner or later you're going to have to come back. And the taxpayers have been, how can I say, they've been, I'm not scolded, not probably the thing, but they've been basically said, you know, we've allowed the town roads to not be in the condition they should be. Well, if we don't keep money in the budget, I think 400 to 450,000 would be a good solid number. We're going to continue to have the same problem. I realize that there is money coming into the bond, and I realize that there'll be other money coming in, but I urge you to incorporate paving money for streets and highways and roads into your operating budget, because the money's being spent for something else, while it used to be part of our operating budget. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
There was a question earlier about, was it South Street, Grove Street, correct? We took out a bond for that street. It was 1.5 million, and it was various streets. It wasn't just one. Originally, that bond was financed at a lot higher interest rate. Right now, it's at a 1.98% interest rate. It was 2.92. We do owe about $700,000 left on that bond. We took that out, it looks like 2013. So even though a warrant article may not be for a specific road, when we take out a warrant article for a bond to do work on specific roads, like the $2 million that we took out, the $340,000 for the sewer, and this $500,000, there is work being done on various roads, and we're still paying for it, so it does go into the budget as a bond payment.
How long will you bond
For this one, was only going to
How
be
long was the bond for on the Grove Street?
on the Grove Street. It is to mature in 2023.
So it wasn't 20 years.
No, that one was not 20 years. I try to get with the local banks, I try to do 10 or 15 years, so they're paid off quickly.
So why is this one 20 years?
Because this one is through a state grant loan fund at a 2%, not through a bank.
That didn't answer my question. My question is, why isn't it 15 years the same way on what you're talking about rather than 20 years?
This one has different requirements through the state.
You have to go to 20 years?
I'm not quite sure of how the whole loan project works, but in order to get us back to 12.5%, we've got to go by whatever rules and agreement that they set up. And that 12.5%
Somebody ought
is,
to know the rules and regulations before you're asking people to vote.
that decision was made further up the chain.
I'm sorry, but that's, somebody should know the answers to those questions prior to asking people to vote on. Because
Are you talking about Foster Hill or?
Here being added to your sewer users fee
Yeah.
will possibly increase the sewer bills by a huge amount for the people that are on the sewer system.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what your point is, but to address one of the points Brian brought up, in 2018, it was mentioned that we are paving Pine Street, Chiswick, Cross Street, Pleasant Street, a section Evergreen Lane, Mill Street, Saranac Street, Amanusick Street, and then with this, it would be Foster Hill Road in 2019. But to his point, saying about as far as putting money in the operating budget to cover the cost of paving, that might be something that we could entertain looking at instead of having the entire payment for all of these in-town projects coming out of the sewer fund, and I guess maybe to Bruce's point as well, is maybe the portion of the pavement could actually be paid for out of the operating budget paving funds instead of just the sewer funds. We could look at something like that. And then you would just see a mix of how it's funded on the warrant article, tax impact and sewer impact, similar to the River District one.
I just get nervous when things go to zero,
Yeah.
because they never stay at zero.
Yeah, and to that point, with one of the things that, we're trying to do, and we started trying to do last year, was rather than, go through and just pave a road because it's in bad condition, taking a look at the whole scope of it, and, looking at the whole box underneath the road and seeing, the storm drain, the sewer, if the water, if the water department wants to participate, and do it all at once, and make that judgment call of what needs to be done next based on the entire infrastructure that's there, so that we're not paving and then coming back and peeling it up and changing the infrastructure later. And also trying to alleviate some of the burden on the taxpayer by utilizing these alternative funds. For example, today we're notified that we were awarded a USDA grant to start the study of subsection 2, which would bring a whole nother set of roads into play for around here in the future. And it takes a little more, forethought, because you're not looking at just what you're going to do next year. You're really looking at, if you're going to use these other funds, if we can get USDA up to 45%, 50% grant match, then you really have to, you look in these larger time blocks. But yeah, to address that, maybe that's something that we could look at, is paying for some of the pavement out of the operating budget for those projects.
I think the town has done a good job on Cobb Street, on Hill Street, on High Street, as far as trying to incorporate all of the upgrades. So, as you said before, so I just want to make sure the town keeps doing what it's been doing, because it's been doing a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the main difference between the Hill Street and School Street projects, for example, were 100% tax and 100% sewer, and there was no, grant funds to help offset the costs. So.
One is that a class 5 highway?
Bruce, I'm not sure about your classification question.
Well,
It's a town, it's not a,
you get reimbursed from the state.
you want to say that it's a county road that used to go through someplace else. I don't believe that. the case anymore. It's 100% our responsibility now. I have looked into this.
I think the state's still paying you under these class 5 highways.
No, I did look into this, and you say, like, Bruce talking about Parker's Lake Road used to go into Lyman, Boxer Hill Road used to go all the way to Haverhill, really. Old Whitefield Road used to be a state road. They have not been willing to help me on these roads in any way, shape, or form. I have gone down that avenue, and with your guidance, Bruce, I did look into this pretty closely, and unless I've been lied to pretty regularly, it's not the case.
So we're not getting any monies from the state on
That's
these
correct.
class 5 highways?
That's correct.
The other one is, I'm like Ryan, I believe that your pavement should be on your budget, the thing on it, not doing this. How many sewer customers do you have?
How many what?
Sewer customers.
I can't say for sure. I want to say 60.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question to ask, because based on the numbers that you have, based on the amount of homes that you have out in the rural areas, we're not having to hook them onto anything like this, it's who's going to be paying the bills on it.
How many sewer customers are on Foster Hill Road?
No, this particular thing here is going to come back and haunt the sewer use. Whoever, when you pass a law like this, it comes back and is attached to the sewer user's fees on the thing on it, and this in turn costs everybody in the town of Littleton that is on the sewer system and paying the bill.
No, he's switched back to the other one. All these hearings are open.
Oh, okay. Foster Hill isn't on the sewer system.
No, I'm not talking Foster, but the
No,
fact
he's
is,
back to the other bond hearing.
but this one here is if you're asking for the bond on the other one, not this particular bond, but the sewer use fee.
Thank you.
I would like to ask, I'm struck by the fact that the Budget Committee is not supporting this article, 2 to 5 vote, and all the votes that are recorded on this sheet of paper, that's the only article that they're not supporting. I'm wondering if there's anybody from the Budget Committee who can articulate why the committee is not supporting this article, or perhaps if nobody from the Budget Committee is here or will speak to it.
Again, this is a bond hearing
Yes,
for informational purposes.
yes.
I don't know why the Budget Committee, or who on the Budget Committee voted yea or nay. I don't know of anybody from the Budget Committee that's here to speak to that. Ralph?
I could just give a basic, as I am on the budget committee, and the budget committee felt that $500,000 for this one road that only includes 2 miles for $500,000, that because we don't have paving in the budget, and there's a lot of other roads in this town that need some serious road work, we felt $500,000 for one road up in that area was too much to ask for, especially when we don't have the money to pay for some of the other local roads that need to be repaired as well. So that's why we more or less voted against this one, because of the cost of a 2-mile road.
Thank you, Ralph. Are there any other questions on the second hearing, which was Mill Street? That hearing is now closed. Foster Hill Road hearing is open for another 10 minutes. Are there further questions on Foster Hill Road? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to Article 4, which is the operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $9,170,818. Should this article be defeated, the default budget of $9,035,611, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law or by governing body, may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated tax impact, $8.047 per thousand. There are no recommendations, and the budget number is final. Some of the iterations of the budget are not yet final. So if you have a budget in front of you, some of those numbers may change. However, I'm told the total will not. Is that correct, Aaron?
Unless the selectmen choose to follow any recommendations by the budget committee.
At this point in time, the selectmen have not received the budget committee's recommendations. So those numbers are good for tonight, but not necessarily beyond.
Are there
Bruce.
copies of the budget?
Excuse me, Bruce?
No,
Thank you.
Bruce?
Is it wrong to think you could do what Brian has suggested and increase the amount on here from the selectmen?
We could.
On the page?
We could.
I don't know how much dollars and cents it would come out to, but I think probably it would be a smart thing to consider adding it on so it would keep your sewer fees down.
I assure you, we will consider it. We will consider everything said here tonight. Moving right along. Article 5, full-time police officer, parentheses, 9 months. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $63,443 for the purpose of increasing the level of patrol officer staffing for the town's police department. The 9-month estimate cost is $63,443 and is inclusive of benefits, equipment, and uniform. The full year inclusive cost is estimated to be $94,621, and if approved, the full cost will be added to the 2019 default and proposed budgets. The estimated tax impact is .088 cents per thousand. Article 6, Municipal Road Retention System. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,000 for the purpose of purchasing a record retention file system. Once implemented, the system will be utilized by various departments that are required to retain financial and administrative records. Estimated tax impact, .032 cents per thousand. Bruce?
I believe that this in turn should be not through the methods of putting on a separate budget. I believe it should be put right on the main budget of $23,000, and it should be directly through the town office, not through the police department. The town is the main part of what you have. I'm agreeing with the philosophy of what you are doing on the thing on it, but it should be appropriated onto your main budget, and the $23,000 shouldn't even be on the warrant. And it should not be in the control of the police department. It should be the main part of the community as to what you have in your town. And then expand out from there to any other division that wants to use it. We have one similar in nature, but it just doesn't get it right off the warrant.
Thank you, Bruce. Article 7, full-time highway department truck driver, 9 months. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,867 for the purpose of increasing the level of full-time staff in the highway department. The 9-month estimated cost is $40,857. and is inclusive of benefits. The full year inclusive cost is estimated to be $59,068, and if approved, the full cost will be added to the 2019 default and proposed budgets. The estimated tax impact is .056 cents per thousand. Bruce?
My question would be, you're looking at a different truck. I was walking on panels of a bigger truck. When you're talking about individuals, how many of them have the type of licenses that you can drive a truck that are working for the town now?
Joe?
Five have the license license.
CDL licenses?
Yeah, five or six do out of the eight. One is his permit about to get his license, but we have five drivers. We have 3 Class A CDLs and 3 Class B CDLs, including myself. I have a Class A.
Do they get paid more money for CDL licenses?
No, the Class A truck driver. Well, I'll let actually Karen.
The collective bargaining unit agreement allows us to pay the difference between a CDL license and a regular license. That's all they get.
How much is that?
$20
A year?
a year.
Ron, you had a question?
Yes, I don't understand the comment from the budget committee, recommends a 4-month period. For what?
Ralph, you want to speak for the budget committee?
Just, basically, it's, by the time that person is hired, remind me, Joe,
Yep.
September, right?
We talked about, the budget committee talked about changing the date of hire from April
To September,
to September.
because that way you need them for the winter months.
Yeah, we get
So
it.
we're only looking at, for 2019, we're looking at 4 months worth of salary versus this full month to be put onto the warrant article to be accumulated for the whole year of 2019.
That's
Make
correct.
sense?
That's correct.
I believe it's 2018, not 2019.
2018, I'm sorry, 2018, right.
So, so that's something that the selectmen will take under advisement. Revise before the deliberative session. Okay?
If we can, I'm not sure we can change a warrant at this point.
Yes, you can.
We can.
Yeah.
Well, all comments will be taken under advisement.
All right. I've got a more general question about staffing. This is the way I remember staffing being done when you wanted to add staff with the warrant article. But it's my understanding that over the last year, there have been some hirings, some part-time, maybe a full-time. I'm wondering how those were authorized and expensed.
No, highway specific?
No, not the highway at all. I understand there was a facilities manager hired part-time, there was somebody hired to do the Opera House scheduling part-time, and then I thought I read something about a firefighter in the newspaper. I was wondering how those accomplished. I know that the can move money around within the budget. That's certainly authorized, but normally a staffing addition, I'm used to that running forward the warrant article, so everybody gets to prove it, since some of these are in perpetuity.
Yep, so just addressing need with the buildings maintenance, the title building maintenance supervisor, coordinator. This person, because of the cross-departmental activities that they do and helping maintain, coordinate maintenance and activities on multiple departments' buildings, we took funding out of all these different departments to help offset the cost. And then with the Opera House director, or Opera House, what's our title we have,
Opera House manager.
Manager. Yeah, we were presented with a need where the chamber had decided to move out of the Opera House, and they had been handling the general oversight and management of the venue, and so now this was on the town. So to meet that need. I believe we did it within our budget, and we were able to hire a new Opera House manager. And then with the fire department, what we did was we changed a part-time position into a full-time position in order to meet a emergency need that we were seeing managerially for Sunday coverage. So, and yeah, under the general statute provided for town manager form of government, the authorization is there. The townspeople do approve a budget, and then it's up to town manager and with coordination with the select board to create, eliminate positions, departments, anything that's needed. So.
Just to add to that, in the Opera House budget, we did have $12,000 budgeted for management. And when the chamber left the Opera House, we were faced with trying to figure out what to do, how to handle the management of the Opera House, knowing that we're all stretched for time. And the manager that we have hired is doing a fantastic job. Where we normally get in about $3,000 a year, this year I believe we're up to about $17,000, and next year we predict even more. And that's only since June.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not challenging the need for any of these positions. It's just a procedural thing. And maybe a little more sunlight on that would help people to understand that these not only were, you know, one-time shots, but they're going to be in the budget, right?
Thank you. We're on the highway department truck driver.
Well, it was brought up about the people in here, so I'm only going on the basis of the people that you were talking about hiring. So it may be the highway department, but consequently it was brought up as, to give you an example, you people had voted to add another fireman on Sunday to cover. The fire department, in terms when you add a guy on, he can't even drive a truck because they don't allow a truck out without 2 men. So why would you in turn add another person on? What can you do? You can't drive a truck. They don't allow it. You gotta have 2 people on the truck. So why would you have gone out and added another person? And this was voted on by the selectmen, so I think we should ask the selectmen that part of it.
There is on-call firemen, full-time firemen have an on-call one Sunday, they rotate out for all the rest of the full-time firemen to be on call. So they need to respond and be prepared to go to work immediately when they're called. So a second fireman will show up very quickly. We also have part-time firemen that are either near the station or in the station many times on a Sunday that can help step up and be on that truck.
But at the present time, because we don't have anybody there on a Sunday, 2 people are required to show up.
According to the collective bargaining unit agreement, there has to be 2 people on the truck.
Right.
Whether that's full-time or part-time, it does not matter.
So adding a separate person to be in the fire department at all times doesn't help you at all, other than you have to have only 1 person show up, not 2.
Correct. And it's a lot quicker response.
What does it cost to change the procedure around to cover it under that time?
I'll give you that in a moment.
And so I believe our schedule is set up so that we have a full-time and a part-time person scheduled for Sundays. We'll also see, because of that, we're going to see some reduction in overtime. We'll need to give it a year, but we'll have someone also who can fill in shifts. We've been so shallow with our staffing that if someone's sick, someone's injured, we've got to call somebody back who's already working a full shift. So as it stands right now, we'll be able to offset some of that with this change from a part-time to a full-time person. So.
full-time cost of a firefighter is $80,423 per year. We reduced the overtime and the shift coverage in the budget and benefits by $33,517. So that helped offset some of the costs. So the cost for 2018 is $46,905.
And it's still, and private fire.
There needs to be 2 people on the fire truck.
Right, and there's no two people there the way you operate. There is.
Any further questions on Article 7?
Yeah. We're talking about the fire department and wages.
Article 8, new highway department 10-wheel truck, 5-year lease. Excuse me. The second hearing, which is the Foster Hill Road hearing, is now closed. Article 8, new highway department 10-wheel truck. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $170,000 for the purchase or lease of a new 10-wheel truck with a lease or purchase payment set up for a period of 5 years, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,333, the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement has an escape clause. The estimated tax impact is .046 cents per thousand. No questions. Article 9, public work.
What happens if they don't vote on it?
We don't buy it.
Have you got enough equipment to operate the problem? If it goes down.
Well, the problem is the same old problem we have every year when we're looking for a replacement vehicle. If it's not voted in as an article, as a warrant article, you can't buy it. You have to do with what you've got. I don't know how else to explain it.
Oh, that's fine.
Article 9, public works generator, fire department overhead exterior doors replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,252 for the purpose of purchasing and installing a generator at the Public Works Building and the replacement of overhead doors and exterior doors at the fire department. The cost will be offset by a USDA grant in the amount of $31,900. Estimated tax impact, .046 cents per thousand. Bruce?
Relative to the, I'm asking specifically on the generator part of it, is there any surplus of money that was left over in any funds from the actual garage or the, none, that's all been used up?
All of it.
All of it. How about the salt shed?
$7.
That's, okay, that's what I was asking, because if there was money in there, I would think we could use that part. That was the only reason I didn't know.
Article 10, transfer station repair replacement equipment buildings. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $27,000, excuse me, to replace, fix, purchase, and maintain transfer station equipment, buildings, containers, vehicles, and the purchase of an additional supply of bags, and to authorize the withdrawal of $27,000 from the transfer station special reserve fund created for the above purposes. No tax impact. Article 11, transfer station trash compactor. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for the purchase of a new trash compactor, and to authorize the withdrawal of $15,000 from the transfer station special reserve fund to offset a part of this cost. Estimated tax impact, .014 cents per thousand. I can add to that Brian has told us that the old compactor, we can't even get parts for it anymore. So it's hanging in there, but not for long. That pretty close, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. Article 12 was our first public hearing. Article 13, EMS proposed operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $140,000 for an in-house EMS operating budget, parentheses 6 months, not including other EMS appropriations by special warrant articles which are voted separately. The amount set forth on the in-house EMS budget posted with a warrant for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $140,000. And will have offsetting revenues in the amount of $140,000, parentheses, the 12-month budget will be included in the 2019 default town operating budget if approved. If this article passes, $205,000 will be eliminated from the proposed budget. This amount reflects the balance of outsourced EMS contract expenses. A majority vote is required on this. Doesn't make sense because it is on everything. Estimated tax impact, negative 0.203 cents per thousand. All right.
Can somebody explain to me how this works? As far as how many new employees we're gonna have, where the savings are going to be, how they're gonna be classified, are they gonna be firefighters / EMS, or are they just gonna be EMS? You know, and again, I don't know. I mean, my understanding is that Calyx has about 6 employees plus some per diems. So what are we replacing and what are we getting? And
Good questions. So the next 3 warrant articles are actually part of a larger proposal where the fire department, in addition to 3 other bidders, are all presenting proposals to the EMS Commission. And so that process is going to take place, you know, outside of the regular town meeting timeline. So in order to create options for the commission and the select board and myself to actually choose a way forward, we have to put all options on the table. So, for example, if one of the proposals is recommended and the selectmen, we move forward with one of the proposals that say is from ambulance company A, then those expenses would then just come out of the proposed budget. If the commission is recommending a fire-based EMS, for example, then we would need these warrant articles in order to enact that. As far as the proposal of how many employees and the makeup, that's all being presented to the commission, and I hope that we'll have more information in time for a deliberative session. In the meantime, we have a point where Calyx is telling us they're going to be done. They just recently told me, I think, February 2nd. And so what we're looking at is a bridge contract, basically, a short-term extended contract, likely for 6 months with another provider, to allow the town and the commission to move into whatever the next step is that's recommended by the commission.
could I make a comment? I'm very concerned we're going to turn $100,000 problem into a $500,000 problem. And one of the major reasons is that if you go in-house, and I'm looking at the impact upon the fire department, and that the fire department, and I can say things you guys can't respond to for different reasons. It's been no surprise that the fire department has wanted to have their own collective bargaining unit. They need 10 people to do that. If you hire X number of people, 4 to 6 more people, they will then be able to join the International Brotherhood of Firefighters, which all of the unionized firefighters throughout the state belong to. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way things go. And then there will be an effort to execute and implement the master contract, which has the language. So, and I expressed this to Andrew before, the idea that we're going to have a temporary union contract, I mean, it's like no one is temporary pregnant and nobody has a temporary union. If you shift services into a unionized shop, those services stay within those shops. And none of this explanation is done. I mean, if I was in your shoes, I'd sign that contract, because then you know definitely what your definitive costs are. And I realize it's very difficult, but if you look at it from a priority point of view, we were spending $123,000 for ambulance service, while we were spending $445,000 for paving, roughly 4 to 1. We may very well end up with 0 in paving and $445,000 for ambulance service. And I just think we don't have the information, and it doesn't seem like it's really available. And I understand you're working the process to come up with that. But it's important because the union work rules, as Bruce has stated, has been said, you gotta have 2 people on the fire truck. Well, how many people you gotta have on the ambulance? And all of those things, and I spoke with Andrew as to whether the union negotiator for the town had been involved in developing the language so that we knew exactly what we're going to get. And it's negotiated with the fire department union. That's the process, and I understand that. But unless those questions are answered, I don't be too harsh to say it's a pig in a poke, but the explanation about how this is all going to work and how the money is going to be, you got to be very, very careful when you're expanding union contracts. Like I said, I can say that as a citizen. You can't respond. You still have to be careful. And it's important that prior to us voting to spend money on these things, you guys have the answers to that. And I don't have a problem with you sitting down with the union and negotiating the work rules, understanding what the contract language is going to be. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't think there's any extra money in the collective bargaining as far as for legal for that, and I don't understand. So, I mean, this is a moving target that has a potential to be very expensive for the town. And I know you guys don't want to get it wrong. So I'm not saying that you have got it wrong, but I almost say buy the contract, then explore, and maybe a couple years down the road, we can have something. To have an undetermined amount, employing an undetermined amount of people at an undetermined cost at this particular point, I think is putting us in a tough place voting wise.
Thank you for your comments, Brian. I'll add this. At this stage of the game, it's not our decision. We've got a commission. Your comments, I'll make sure, are passed on to the commission. The commission then is going to make a recommendation to the selectmen. And again, thank you for your comments. We will take them into consideration. At this point in time, we're trying to answer questions about the article. The debate comes after the commission has made a recommendation and the selectmen have made a decision. And hopefully that will be pretty much done before deliberative session. Bruce?
I think that one of the major things that I'm very concerned about is when you appropriated and put the people on the commission, you immediately went to the fire department and you have the people that are on there on the commission. So they're in a steering position with a bunch of doctors or anything else.
That's water over the dam, Bruce. If it was a mistake, it was a mistake. It's done.
It's a mistake, and if you still can correct it.
Fire the commission and start over?
Yes, you can still correct things on it from that back. There's no question about it. But that's not the way you should be doing it.
Thank you, Bruce.
No, well, let me finish on it, first of all. I believe that every town in the state of New Hampshire that's in a rural area is going to have a major problem when it comes down to ambulances on that time. And I think that it's not just Littleton. It's going to be all over the place. And I think the only answer you have to running an ambulance service is through the county. The county in turn can't your EMTs, or you're not your EMTs, but they dispatch, they have the sheriff's department, and they should have the control of the ambulance services through the whole entire county out there. That doesn't mean Littleton wouldn't have an ambulance services up here and the garage to operate from.
Bruce, you're preaching like this is deliberative session. It's not.
Listen, I think if you listen to it, you can maybe add to some of it, and maybe you can get things started. I don't think you have a good answer on the basis of what I'm saying right away. There's no question about it. That in turn has we've got to try to do something in the interim period, and you're between a rock and a hard place on the basis of what you have. But the fact is, that that's what they should be doing, is going to Grafton County, and the county should be running the whole entire process out of the thing. And they make money out of the thing on it too, which is what that is back.
Thank you, Bruce. Ralph?
The question I have is, if this passes, $205,000 will be coming out of the proposed budget.
Correct.
That means we gotta go forward with this deal. But we're not gonna be ready to have our fire department take this on. So is that $140,000 being appropriated, is that gonna pay for temporary service for 6 months to a year? Is it gonna be enough?
That's what our estimate is at this point in time. That's why we came up with a number.
Okay.
Thank you. Article 15, ambulance lease / purchase. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $250,000 for the purchase or lease of a new ambulance with setup costs, with the lease or purchase payment set up for a period of 5 years, and to authorize the first payment to come from the withdrawal of $50,000 from the unreserved fund balance. This,
Point of order. On the wrong article.
Article 14, Special EMS Revolving Revenue Fund, to see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 3195H to establish a special EMS revolving revenue fund and to restrict 100% of the revenues from the fund to expenditures for the purpose of EMS ambulance services. Such revenues and expenditures shall be accounted for in a special revenue fund named EMS Revolving Revenue Fund, separate from the general fund, and further to name the selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. Any surplus in said fund shall not be deemed part of the general fund, accumulated surplus, and shall be used or expended only after the approval of the selectmen for a specific purpose related to the purpose of the fund or source of revenue. No tax impact.
Where will the revenue come from?
So again, this is part of the proposal, that's the fire-based EMS. So right now, I think Calix estimates that they collect in fees about $280,000 in 2017. So those fees would then be being billed and given to the town for its EMS use. The other fees would be fees for, I think it's called inter-hospital transfers from one hospital to another. There's I don't know how much money is potentially out there for that, but I think it's fairly significant as well. And then this fund also allows you to then bill like for example, ambulance lease payment, which I believe is the next one, to that fund. You would also charge wages for people, for employees working to staff those ambulances to this fund. And the idea that is, or the method is that eventually you can look at your fire-to-call ratio and you actually offset fire wages by this fund, thereby reducing the fire department budget, and reducing the impact on taxpayers. And again, this is all part of that proposal. This is a critical component of the fire-based EMS option. Or if even the recommendation was not to go forward with fire-based, but with maybe just providing inter-hospital transfers, this would allow you to do that too. So.
Okay.
I'm concerned, if the revenues go to the fund, are the expenses going to be on the taxpayer? I mean,
that's what you have to have this to do that, to charge the fund instead of charging the taxpayer, similar to sewer fund.
right.
Yes.
It will work a lot like the transfer station fund, where the expenditures and the revenues, when you figure the budget, have to match. And if you're taking in more revenues than you are expenditures, that money at the end of the year closes out to that fund, special revenue fund. And it can be the decision of the selectmen to authorize using those funds for certain purposes, but they only have to be related. They all have to be related to the EMS ambulance services.
Why isn't this set up like the transfer fund? Because you're absolutely right, the expenditures are built into the budget, a projected revenue is set, and then anything in excess goes into that capital reserve fund. However, those funds are then taken to the voters. I think we had a couple more articles already to take the money out. How come under this, we're not doing the same thing that we're doing with the...
We could. Some of the thought was if we had enough money built up in that fund, we could, and there's later on an ambulance purchase, we could pay off the ambulance rather than holding it and waiting for the voters to approve it.
However, we could consider your thoughts too.
No, it's consistent with what we've done. It's worked out pretty well, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Article 15. I read it once, I'll read it again. To see if the town will vote and appropriate the sum of $250,000 for the purchase or lease of a new ambulance with setup costs, with a lease or purchase payment set up for a period of 5 years, and to authorize the first payment to come from the withdrawal of $50,000 from the unreserved fund balance. This lease agreement has an escape clause. The estimated tax impact is 0.069 cents per thousand.
Yeah, there's a typo on there on the screen if you're reading it.
On what?
I have a typo up on the screen, but what Skylar said is correct for the tax impact. The estimated tax, I have on there leftover piece of the previous article, the estimated tax impact of negative 28 cents. That shouldn't be there. The one below is correct.
The newspaper said something about the town buying a used ambulance also. Where is that?
One of the out loud thoughts. It's a bit
I
of
was out there for chit-chat, but it hasn't
There's
reached.
a lot of it. Bruce?
I got told that there's almost a year wait to get an ambulance, a new one. So how does that reflect it if you gotta wait a year on the basis of getting it?
Probably look for a used one.
Under this part of it, you have the rights to go and do that?
No. We do not.
I'm a believer, with all those problems that we've got, there's no question that we should consider buying an ambulance. If it works out that you go to Grafton County, you go someplace else, you can always dispose of it by selling it. We may lose something, we may gain, we may not, but you could always get your money back out, or you could sell it and get some of your money back out of it if it was used in a different capacity. But you can't go and buy a used one if you gotta buy this one and you got a year wait.
And if that's a deterrent, then vote against it.
Karen has an explanation.
If the funds are being withdrawn from the unreserved fund balance, there would not be a tax impact for 2018.
If there's a fund balance.
There is a fund balance.
And what is it so far?
The unreserved fund balance for the general fund is $518,000.
Article 16, fire pumper purchase. To see if the town will vote and appropriate the sum of $500,000 for the purchase of a fire pumper truck. The cost will be offset with grant funds in the amount of $475,000. Estimated tax impact, 0.035 cents per thousand.
Does this replace a piece of equipment?
It's replacement, yes.
Excuse me?
It's replacement.
So this would replace what? Fire engine 6?
Three.
Not the one that was rebuilt. It's the other
No,
one.
the other one.
Three, yeah, the one that wasn't rebuilt.
Long overdue.
Yep. Article 17, unexpended Conservation Commission funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500 to be placed in the Conservation Commission Capital Reserve Fund previously established. This amount represents the unexpended portion of the Conservation Commission's 2017 appropriation. No tax impact. One of our more efficient departments. Article 18, transfer of town property in exchange of easements to LIDC, parentheses, Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Littleton Board of Selectmen to transfer land identified as tax maps 99, lot 46, to Littleton Industrial Development Corporation, a nonprofit corporation in the interest of future economic development. The land is a 41.96 acre parcel with a 60-foot right-of-way, access to Mount Eustace Road on land owned by the town. This transfer carries no cost to the town. And to authorize the town of Littleton Board of Selectmen to exchange easements with the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation over the town's parcel of land, tax map 99, lot 17. The Select Board proposes to give LIDC a new right-of-way over tax map 99, lot 17, in exchange for LIDC releasing any claim to the old easement on tax map 99, lot 17. These conveyances carry no cost to the town, no tax impact. Bruce,
Has there been any geology reports on the basis of what's on that property?
has there been any what?
Geology reports on the basis of what there is there. In other words, we
Not
buy
that
a
I'm
lot of
aware of.
sand, we buy a lot of sand over here. And that was part of, used to be a sand pit over in that area. I'm wondering if we had any geology reports on the basis of what there was there.
Not that I'm aware of.
Why would you in turn enhance by selling it to somebody without knowing if the community is giving up something that could be $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million worth of sand, rock, or something else? That would be my first question.
Thank you.
The other part that I'm looking at in here on the basis of what you have is you're not applying it to it on the basis of if it's sold on the thing on it, that these people in turn can go in and take the wood off it, they can start to sell the sand, they can do things of that nature. When I was on that board, we sold a huge amount of the sand that came off the industrial park to the interstate highway. That's how we get a lot of the funds. And they were doing it because of the sloping. But consequently, you're not protecting the community pertaining to what it is that you're selling. And allowing
Bruce, you're
them-
arguing like deliberative session again. You're not asking questions.
I am asking.
About the
Why
article.
isn't it on here?
You're not asking questions about the article.
I am asking you about the article. It's not on here for the protection of the consumer.
True.
Why would you consider adding it now? You still can do that.
Thank you. We'll consider it. Ralph?
This is kind of different from what I've been understanding right along, and we've all been fixed on this $1 thing, but this is basically transferring at no cost to LIDC whatsoever the land.
Correct.
It's giving it to them.
Correct. Brian?
There's a strong precedent that this has occurred. There's been 18 transfers between LIDC and the town, 14 from LIDC to the town, 4 from the town. And at no time did any money exchange hands. Why? Because it's a partnership. The town has put $1 million, taxpayers have supported it 9 different times into it. LIDC put $400,000 in, and they've raised $2.6 million in grant to fund the $4 million project. It's been a partnership. You don't charge when you have a volunteer partnership. You don't charge people for it. We've never done it the other 18 times. I don't think we should start doing it now.
Thank you, Brian. Article 19, Opera House building maintenance. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purposes of repairs and improvements to the building. Estimated tax impact, 0.014 cents per thousand. Article 20, Keno games. Excuse me.
Yeah, so this is a Board of Selectmen warrant article, this is not a petition warrant article.
This is not a petition warrant article.
Okay, I would recommend that in the final version of this, you detail what the $10,000 is going to be spent for. So,
Thank you. Article 20, Keno games. Shall we allow the operation of Keno games within the town of Littleton, no tax impact.
Where do we know the selectmen's position on that?
I think it's very important to have the public know that if this is voted down, there's 72 kids in the kindergarten, and you would lose $1,100 per student out of the thing, which is close to a lot of money out of it if you vote this down. Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I read stuff.
I have too.
Yeah.
And I'll have more, Mr. Chairman, I can have more information for the deliberative session, but I believe the latest legal review stated that we have to have it on the ballot.
Yes.
But it does not necessarily have to pass. If we don't put it on the ballot, I believe it does put it at risk of for people lost, but I can have more information.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say it that way. I'm trying to in turn, if you vote it in, you get the money for the kindergarten program out of it, which is a different breed of cats out of it. But consequently, if you vote it out of the thing on it, we stand to lose on the educational part a substantial amount of money.
We'll
And
have
it
all
needs
the-
to be explained to the public in that manner.
We'll have it all at the deliberative session. Article 21, amendment to dog ordinance municipal athletic fields to see if the town will adopt a revised dog regulation ordinance which merges pre-existing regulations into one chapter, brings the ordinance into conformance with new statutory changes, adds penalties for failure to remove feces, and prohibits dogs on municipal athletic fields, no tax impact. Article 22, amendment to hawkers and peddlers license. Are you in favor of requiring any person who goes from door to door, place to place within a town or town to town, who sells, offers to sell, or takes orders for merchandise, or offers to perform personal services for household repairs or improvements, to submit to a federal and state records check at the applicant's expense, no tax impact? Article 23, Planning Board Master Plan Update, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,000 to update the master plan. As required by RSA 674, the duty of the Planning Board includes preparing and amending the master plan. The cost will be offset by available grants. The estimated tax impact is .044 cents per thousand. Article 24,
Hold on, Bruce.
excuse me.
We've had this occur before. It's not the first time, and I think they upgraded. My concerns were the last couple of times it's happened, we have a book about this thick, and the company they hired got the $40,000 out of the thing on it, and they took 2 or 3 of the pages out on the thing and stuck new pages in. And that's all we got for the $40,000. So if you have a plan, every town changes as to what they're going to do and how they're laid out and what you have for services and stuff like this on it. And it should be addressed, but that's what we're asking for, not just pulling the page out and sticking and inserting something and just getting the bill for it.
And again, can be brought up at deliberative session when we're arguing the pros and cons and how to do this. Article 24, Opera House Special Fund Authority for Selectmen to expend. To see if the town will change the provisions of the Opera House Building Special Revenue Fund established under RSA 3195C to restrict 100% of revenues after expenses from the Opera House building rentals to the expenditures for the purpose of improvements, repairs, equipment, events, and upgrades to the Opera House. Such revenues and expenditures shall be accounted for in a special revenue fund currently called the Town Promotion Opera House Fund. This is from a 1995 vote. Separate from the general fund. Any surplus in said fund shall not be deemed part of the general fund accumulated surplus and shall be used or expended only after approval of the selectmen for a specific purpose related to the purpose of the fund or source of revenue. This requires a 2/3 majority vote, no tax impact. Bruce?
Just a point that you should be aware of, when they accept the funds on rebuilding the town building over there on Brian, I think, was really involved with it. But they did it, and it was charged as a national something or other of it, and you could not just go and spend the money. You had to submit all of your plans to Tonkin out of the thing on it as to what you had to do and how you upgraded everything you spent. So you can't just go and spend money. So you need to be able to be aware of it, that if you do that, and the money's in this fund, you've got to be able to petition state as to anything that's there, and it has to be up to a certain standard.
Thank you, Bruce. Article 25, dumpster ordinance. Are you in favor of adopting the dumpsters offensive matter and standing water ordinance? The ordinance will require all discarded animal and vegetable matter to be placed inside a building, bear and other wildlife-proof dumpster or an appropriate town disposal site, but will allow discarded building material and household office items to be placed in an open dumpster fitted with a waterproof or throw tarp during periods when it is raining. No tax impact.
Could we possibly retitle after all of this hard work, we'll call it the Brod's dumpster ordinance? As the health officer, he has put in a number of hours to
Excuse me.
I have some other names I may.
The wording here came late this afternoon. Our attorney thought this ordinance, just the standing water ordinance, was already in place. It was not. She had something else written, and we moved the answers around, or the wording around here. It should read, to see if the town will vote to adopt the ordinance, and then I'll explain the whole ordinance at the deliberative session, because it involves the bear proofing part.
Thank you. Article 26, Public Works Sidewalk Tractor, 5-year lease. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease purchase agreement in the sum of $160,000 for the purpose of replacing and purchasing a new sidewalk tractor and equipment, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,000 for the first year's payment for that purpose. If warrant Article 12, Transportation Improvement Fund, passes, all future payments will be paid from the previous year's revenues generated by that warrant article. If the warrant Article 12 fails, all future payments will be part of the general fund expenditure. This lease agreement has an escape clause. The estimated tax impact is .046 cents per thousand.
Would it be prudent to possibly take out the language about replacing and possibly keeping the old one if there's not need at some time to use two versus one? Not saying to do that, but I mean, I think in the past we've had two of them operating. Of course, they tend to die quickly after we get a new one.
So we have three.
Oh, okay.
We have a 1950 Oliver, 70 years old. That's our ace in the hole. It runs. And then we have two John Deere tractors that are very similar in size. One is only a couple of years old, and one is a little bit older. We keep all three. The Oliver, I've never used it in a year and a half I've been here. I was about to use it the other day, and finally we got one of the other ones running. But we would keep, probably keep the Oliver. This is not worth it.
Keep them all until one dies.
Yeah,
It's beyond repairable.
I got more information I need.
Yeah, we trade one.
We're now in the petition warrant articles, the first of which is Article 27, the Chamber of Commerce beautification appropriation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,150 to support the downtown beautification efforts of the Littleton Chamber of Commerce. The estimated tax impact is .015 cents per thousand. The next one is the Chamber event appropriation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,655 to support the downtown event efforts of the Littleton Chamber of Commerce. The estimated tax impact is .004 cents per thousand. Article 29 is Foster Hill Road repairs. Quashnet Hill Road has been on a major repair list for more than 10 years, however, it has been deleted from the warrant articles every year. 30 families live on Quashnet Hill Road and get very little for our tax dollars except repairs and maintenance. We respectfully request the selectmen to keep Quashnet Hill Road on the warrant article for the 2018 vote to grind, repave, and bring it to the current standards. This is a result of a petition as it is under petition warrant article. Social service petition warrant articles, starting with Article 30. Petition warrant article, Grafton County Senior Center. So the voters raise and appropriate $35,000 to Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, Inc., to the Littleton Area Senior Center and the Service Link Resource Center for services for Littleton residents in 2018. These services include congregate meals, home-delivered meals, transportation, outreach, support service for 696 Littleton residents, and Service Link provided services for 353 residents. The cost of providing these services was $416,159.65. The estimated tax impact is 0.048 cents per thousand. Article 31, petition warrant article for the Boys and Girls Club. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to support the Boys and Girls Club of the North Country in order to provide a healthy, safe, and productive after-school and vacation camp environment for children from Littleton and other area towns. The club provides busing from the school to the club for afternoon school program. Estimated tax impact is 0.014 cents per thousand. Bruce?
In the past, they've had the parks program and after-school program. Is that going to continue?
Yes.
And the other question I have from the budget committee, did they ever ask how many Littleton students actually use this facility?
The Budget Committee hadn't talked to anybody or seen this article yet.
Budget Committee hasn't gotten this far.
So will they?
There will, these things on the bottom were recommended by selectmen and recommended by Budget Committee will be done before deliberative session. They're not ready yet. Budget Committee is still meeting, the selectmen are waiting for the Budget Committee, so we got some work to do. Article 32, petition warrant article, support center at Birch House, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $3,080 for the support center at Birch House. These funds will support essential domestic and sexual violence prevention services and emergency shelter for victims and survivors in the community. Estimated tax impact is 0.004 cents per thousand. Article 33, North Country Home Health and Hospice, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,500 for North Country Home Health and Hospice Agency, Inc. The requested funds shall be used to assist in the delivery of home health and hospice services to the residents of the town of Littleton. The estimated tax impact is 0.03 cents per thousand. Article 34, petition warrant article, Northern Human Services. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,696 as the town's contribution to White Mountain Mental Health and Common Ground programs of Northern Human Services, serving the mental health and developmental service needs of Littleton residents. The estimated tax impact is 0.013 cents per thousand. Article 35, petition warrant article for Tri-County Transit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,000 to support Tri-Town public bus service, an estimated tax impact of 0.006 cents per thousand. Article 36, petition warrant article, Tri-County Community Action. to see if the town of Littleton will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,000 for Tri-County Community Action Grafton County for the purpose of continuing services of the Fuel Assistance Program for the residents of Littleton, 0.015 cents per thousand. Article 37, petition warrant article for Above the Notch Humane Society, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to support the Above the Notch Humane Society for the care and feeding of stray and unwanted animals in our area, which includes planning and building a new local dog park. Article 38, petition warrant article Ammonoosuc Community Health Services, to see if the town will vote, I lost my place, and raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for Ammonoosuc Community Health Services, Inc. ACHS is a nonprofit community health center that provides primary preventative care to anyone, regardless of their ability to pay. This will help ACHS continue to provide high-quality care for the 2,226 current Littleton patients, as well as reach out to more. Estimated tax impact, 0.021 cents per thousand. Article 39, petition warrant article Caleb Caregivers, to see if the voters will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 to help support Caleb Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers that serves the needs of seniors in the community. Excuse me. Estimated tax impact, 0.003 cents per thousand. Article 40, petition warrant article Pathways Pregnancy Care Center, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 for Pathways Pregnancy Care Center. Parenting education, life skills, and baby boutique for young mothers and children, and optional counseling. An estimated tax impact of 0.002 cents per thousand. Article 41, petition warrant article CAP Homeless Outreach, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for Tri-County CAP's homeless program. These funds will support essential prevention and intervention services for individuals who are experiencing housing issues. Such services include rental assistance, security deposit loans, transportation for appointments, and case management. Estimated tax impact is 0.007 cents per thousand. Article 242, petition warrant article property tax credit for honorable discharge veterans, to see if the town will vote to adopt additional veterans property tax credit for honorably discharged veterans in accordance with HB 430 in conjunction with NHRSA 72:78 Veterans Tax Credit. No tax impact in 2018, reduction of property tax revenues in 2019. That concludes my list. Thank you all. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your input. It's all been recorded. Those matters which the selectmen have to consider will be considered. Ralph's here from the Budget Committee, so he probably has some messages to take back to them. We are adjourned.